Everybody, welcome to this week's Revitalise Meets, where as always, it is the business-focused podcast, and it's live on LinkedIn Live and on the YouTube channel for Revitalise Networking. Every single week, I get the great opportunity, scratch that, the privilege to meet some phenomenal business professionals, not just locally, but globally, for the chance to us to delve into the conversations even further to find out more about them, their top tips, their challenges, their achievements, and much, much more. This week, I've got the great pleasure to be welcoming along a lady who did a phenomenal job for us at last month's Revitalise Global online call, was sharing her thoughts on limiting beliefs and the power of change in your business. She's been helping many people, not just in property, but helping people bridge the gap with their beliefs and changing their business and themselves for the better. Can you please welcome with me this week's Revitalise Meets guest, the one and only Michelle D. Almeida from Proper-Tay Wealth. Michelle, how are you today?
Oh, wow. I'm just taken back by my intro. It sounds so amazing. Thank you. I'm good.
The invoice will be in the post, so don't worry about that. It's fine.
I already have my beautiful treat from the Bake Box guys for the last thing. So, but I should give them a bit of a plug while I'm here to say thanks for those again.
100%. And I hope you enjoyed it with a nice cuppa as well.
Absolutely. Sun shining in the garden with coffee in the morning. It was beautiful.
Lovely. Love that. Well, thank you very much for meeting me this week and coming along to join us on our sort of season episodes of Revitalise Meets. Can we start first of all and give us a bit of a backdrop to your business journey and to where it's taken to you so far, if you don't mind, Michelle?
Yeah, so I'm probably no different to a lot of people on here who had a job and was doing a job and then maybe tried a business and then decided not to do that and go back to being in a job. But about 3 years ago, I made the decision to go into business and to leave a nonprofit I was working for. And I launched my first company, which is MDA Business Coaching and Consultancy. That's still going strong. I've reduced my client list, but it fills me with so much love. To spend time in that space and to support others who are struggling or transitioning or have been given an opportunity that makes them feel overwhelmed, and I can help them unpick it and find a way through. So that's a happy place for me. And I guess beyond that, I started working with one of my clients a couple of years ago. We get on so well, Craig Elder from Revitalise. And then he asked me to join the company. So I've been involved as a director at Revitalise for just over a year. But part of that transition was us setting up the property company together, which is now 18 months old. So I've ended up in a 3-business situation, but I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because I enjoy having a diverse mix of things to focus on.
What was the biggest? It's interesting when you say you went out of a corporate industry and working in a job. Can I ask you, I like to digress ever so slightly on the sort of conversations. What was the change for you? What made you decide to think, do you know what, tomorrow, that's it, I'm doing this now? What was that transitional period like for you?
I think I'd gone through a period of time. So the job I had before launching the company was a non-profit, and like anybody employed, you get to a point where you feel frustrated because you either want to do something or help somebody or make a difference in a slightly different way to maybe those above you believe is the right direction. And I didn't want to turn people away from receiving support. And that's kind of the situation I was in. So I made the decision to launch my own coaching company at that point, so that the women I'd been supporting for a number of years who now had become successful to the point that they weren't able to receive that free support anymore, but still had all the emotional baggage, had all the stresses, had all the challenges and sort of self-doubt and all the bad things that go with being a business owner, that hadn't stopped just because they become successful and were able to reach a point of 6 figures or beyond. And I just think that they deserved that. And in that moment, for me, abandoning them after maybe supporting them for a number of years just didn't feel like the right thing. So that was my catalyst to say something has to give.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say that. Did you find there's a lot of business owners, especially high-powered lady professionals there?
Yeah.
Did they hit plateaus in their business? Did they hit like a level plane and then wanted to get breached through the next gap? Is that where you came from?
Absolutely. So it's almost that VAT threshold, for want of a better word, so that they approach towards VAT and then they panic, going, well, if I have to pay VAT, I'm going to have to charge customers more, and how's that going to work? quite often then maybe at that point they've got 1 or 2 staff, but they've probably hired a friend of a friend or a family member, not really known who to hire, how to hire, thought they were doing the right thing, but it's not been a strategic business decision. And then down the line, they find that person actually doesn't have the skills, knowledge, or commitment to do what you would expect from an employee in the role. So it's very challenging, and the overwhelm becomes very real for them because they don't want to upset the family member or the person they've hired. They're worried about going into VAT and changing pricing. And quite often they're at a premises point then, so they don't know how to go and negotiate a contract and take on a premises, or how to have those conversations and negotiations with people who, in their mind, will come from a place of authority and know better than them.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting you mentioned there about the changing of price models? Do you find as well there's many people that really felt uncomfortable changing their prices and what they changed it to?
Yeah. So, and I'm actually having that conversation with somebody at the moment who doesn't want to do sales. So I put a post out about sales recently, but it is that thing on how you price your business and whether or not you include all the relevant costs. So certainly at that point, when I was just in the coaching company, I found there was a lot of people not adding their time and skills and labor and not considering the years, and in some cases 10, 15, 20 years of investment in their own self-development to hundreds of thousands of pounds, yet they didn't feel they were worthy of a fair price point for the skill and the work that they did. And that still exists in a lot of the relationships and networks I attend. You know, you've got someone who's highly skilled, makes incredible differences to individuals and companies, and maybe they're charging £50 an hour and they're not valuing themselves, and it's their self-image that is stopping them realizing the impact they're having on those companies' bottom lines.
Do you know what's, again, another interesting point there you mentioned? We talk about the value people put on themselves, but also the perception of what the value other people put on them.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, I think a lot of people in business don't take time to reflect upon actually what knowledge, what resources they're sharing, and actually what it's worth to other people to get that. That's a massive thing, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I think for me, part of that is also your network. You know, we talk about your network being your net worth, and that's very common phrasing within networking circles, and certainly in the property group that I'm part of as a mastermind. You know, if you don't have the network to be able to leverage other people's skills and abilities, you're going to struggle to grow. And people are afraid of reaching out and asking those questions and asking for that support. Equally, when you have it, like you or I, that's a valuable commodity that you will do to some extent because it's the nice thing and the right thing to do. But equally, we've taken years to cultivate them.
Yeah, massively. It takes time, as you say, to cultivate, to nurture, to build, and to get at the right stage where people feel confident with you as well. I think that's a real key one. You've done a lot in that time, really, Michelle, and especially what's been going on. What's been the biggest challenge for you in your business? And did it turn into an achievement for you?
Probably the leap. I remember the Christmas before I launched or when I was launching the company over that Christmas period for the coaching company. And I definitely felt physically sick. Like I had these conversations with people who, when the pressure comes on and you feel like you're abandoning one situation and you're going into another situation and you actually have a physical response to that fear. But the minute you've made the committed decision and you've taken the leap and you've made it verbal to the world and the people involved, it's a relief. So you have that moment of euphoria until that first month where you don't get a paycheck and you realize it's all on you. And then you're like, oh no, what did I do? So I think the biggest challenge was actually understanding my feelings and emotions and being able to take control of myself to be able to move through those periods of doubt and fear and the limiting belief conversation from last week, really, to be able to say, you know, I have everything within me to be able to make a difference and to do good things. And as long as I believe that, then it will work out. And that's still the case now, you know, moving into utility, completely different sector, moving into property, again, different sector. There's always the opportunity to be afraid and to allow that to stop you moving forward. But with the right mindset, you can really apply yourself and know that you'll get what you need when you need it.
Again, it's another point that people feel comfortable in a salary situation. I've come from a corporate background as well, and you've got that regular salary coming in. That leap is really important, that you think, I've got a month now, and you go, I've got no salary paycheck coming in next month.
Yeah.
And now the responsibility is on you as an individual, thinking about, okay, how do I start to bring my salary in, but also try to make my business profitable as well?
Yeah.
And did you find that in the first year that was sort of the hardest build point in regards of?
Maybe not the first year. I mean, I was very fortunate, and I think because I'd been in the business support sector, so launching into a business consultancy and coaching practice meant that I already had an established network. But I definitely found I had to reposition myself. So I spent a lot of time in the first 2 or 3 months networking in Edinburgh rather than in Dundee, because a lot of people knew me as who I was in Dundee, and I was transitioning to somebody else. And then my first big paying job, if you like, came out of a client in Edinburgh rather than one in Dundee. And then over time, it's sort of balanced, and there's a mixture. And I've had a couple of international clients on the coaching as well now. But it's that piece around that first month. I think I had one client that first month at £350 for work that I was doing. And I was like, okay. But within 3 months, I was covering what I'd been earning in the paid job. So, and I know how fortunate and rare that is, having worked with hundreds of women and business owners since as well, that's an unusual situation. And I've been very lucky that business is a 6-figure business. So, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and I think it's really great. I mean, it's a challenge in itself, but one thing I say to many people is, if you set up the right goals and what you want to achieve in that first month, so okay, I need to bring in this, and then I need to build upon that as a foundation. And how much business can you handle? How much can you actually control, deliver, and add to it, which then the time element comes into it as well. Congratulations on what you've done so far, though. So it's brilliant to hear that you've breached over that challenge, that leap, and that achievement of what you've got the clients now, because I feel you've went on an educational journey. You're educating your clients quite regularly, I guess.
Yeah. And mindset for me is a big piece for me personally. So I invest in myself in that space, and I have 2 professional coaches I pay money to right now. And that's because they do different things for me. And I definitely think long term, I'll always have that peer group, that network, that mentorship that I'll aspire to be part of. And I'll continue to move that level up because I want to continue developing. And it's the biggest risk I see with businesses is when they make the decision that money's tight and they start to make cutbacks in things that will, with faith, give them the ability to be able to continue to grow and move forward.
But there's another point there as well. You mentioned is like there's coaches who think, why do they need a coach for?
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches like that.
I can do it myself. No, it's like anything. If you've got people that you can have an advisory board around you, that's a peer-to-peer mentorship.
Absolutely.
That's really important. What made you decide to get 2 professional coaches to work with you?
So they're very different. So having studied for 3 years under Jamie McBrady around mindset, and that was Bob Proctor's work and Sandy Gallagher's work. So I've done 3 different programs with him, and I felt that I'd really learned a lot about who I am. And one of the things that intrigued me was higher intuition as a thing, as part of our higher faculties. And I now work with a coach based in London who has got a company called Super Genius, and they work globally. And his space and the bit he sets in is all around higher intuition and connecting with the universe and energy. And for some people, that's a bit woo-woo. And, 4 years ago, I would have said no chance. So that transition in me to the point of absolute belief has come over that 4 years. And then the other side for me is the property side. So, while I knew I had the business skills and the business knowledge to set up another company and how to build a team, I also knew there was a lot for me to learn within the property sector, and I didn't want to play at it. I wanted to set up a property company with staff and make that full transition. So we invested in professional training and one-to-one mentorship with a multimillionaire who is very successful and delivers fantastic programs. And that was really about, if that's where we want to go, then we need to go to the person who's already achieved that.
Again, it's a point that people forget about. It's the mindset that comes in. It's also getting this into you can get everything else strategically around you, get everything in the right place, get the right people around you, but you've got to get your mindset in the right position to move forward. And you just mentioned that there before, with having one of those coaches that can tap into your psyche. And literally, it's not woo-woo. It's I think it's mental fitness, but mental strength to push you forward, to manifest, to focus, to drive to what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. And you touched on it earlier around goals. I had very clear goals when that first 12 months in the coaching company. That was the only company in that first 12 months. And I was like, right, I need to get to this point on the earnings. And I need to get to this point. And then got to the summer and I'd hit the earnings target, but I'd overcapacitated because my pricing wasn't right.
Right.
And I was doing a lot of work at a lower price point for a non-profit, thinking it was a good thing to do, and had fallen back into that, just say yes and do the work. And I had to readjust myself because I had to look at what I was doing and why I was doing it, and then remind myself why I'd taken the decision I had, and move back into the pricing model that best fitted for me moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Getting you right, you always start somewhere with that pricing model you go with, and it's got to be a tester. You've got to take it out there and give it a go, and you go, do you know what, it's worked? And then sometimes you go, it could be a lot more, because again, it's that value you talk about. It's the value you bring at the table. Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. Really appreciate it. The next stage was you went through, we've all gone through the online and in person, and I like to breach upon this as well and chat about it in my little chats. How have you adapted your business? Have you kept online as part of your business model and your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so for all the companies, really, because we're dealing on the property side with investors, some of them are overseas, some of them are in London, there's people all over the UK that we have conversations with. So we have to do that online in the first instance with a view to exploring opportunities. And if the opportunity is substantial enough, then obviously we'll jump on a plane. Craig and I jumped over to Dubai this year because that was the right thing for us to do.
Yeah, just jump.
Yeah. A wee business trip. That's one of the benefits of being in business. But it was because we had a couple of meetings with energy providers that we work with, but also we were meeting with investment potential for the property side. And I think you have to be willing to go the extra mile sometimes. And if you're not willing to, then you're not going to get the success that can bring. And that's why we did it. But we had had calls digitally in the first instance to make sure there was some synergy and potential real opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this quite a lot, and I mean, in the best respect, it's, and I agree with you. If you've got to go that extra mile, you've got to go through an extra step to get to that client, to speak to the right person. But I think there's a lot of people out there don't look at the online element as still part. It's a major part, because that's opened up the boundaries of communication mega amounts in the last sort of 3 to 4 years. We had it all there previously, but now it's even bigger. Now we can do this online. It's bridging the gap of the communication lines across the whole of the globe for people to speak to one another and to do business as well online.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to be willing to do that. So there are some people I still speak to who are a bit tech phobia, and I'm like, if you're not willing to go on social media and you're not willing to put yourself forward, you still need to create content that's digital. You still need to be able to go on a call and have a conversation. You can hide if you don't want to put your face to something, but you are going to be the face of your business, and you're in that conversation when it comes down to it with the person at the other side.
Yeah, and it's great to talk about tech as well. And I think we have to embrace not as much tech as we can, but tech that works for us. Each individual business owner can use tech in a different way, from a social media perspective to even more as well. And I think we've got one of your connections online with us at the minute as well on LinkedIn.
We do, yeah.
There he is. Greetings from, again, Dubai. What a surprise. There it is. Thanks very much, Dr. Farouk, for joining us on that one. I'm just going to drop into the chat area, if it's okay. I'm just going to pop in there, actually, Michelle's website link. You'll see it on the YouTube channel. And if you are watching, as Dr. Farouk is doing, online on LinkedIn and on YouTube, please share your comments, share what you're hearing, ask a question if you wish to. If we get time, we'll certainly come around to it as best we can. And you'll find Michelle's web link dropped into the YouTube channel, added to the LinkedIn one later on. Thanks for sharing that one with us, Michelle. So what I like to go into now is really like sharing the golden top 3 tips, really. Would you share it from property? Would you share it from coaching? What top 3 tips would you like to share today from an industry or from your sector?
It's probably a mixture, to be fair. So I will mix it up a little bit. So one would be around everything is possible. So it's something I put into the nonprofit when I was working with SMEs. It's definitely something I put into my coaching clients now, but also in conversations with investors. Everything is possible. It's the how we do it that might change, but the what end result we're trying to achieve won't move. So, if someone's looking to get a business at 6 figures, if someone's trying to get a business to 7 figures, the thing we do might be different, but we still need to get to that goal. And don't move the goal because you failed. Move the goal because you've smashed it. Yeah. I think that's one for me. And it's certainly something I put in for us at the companies is let's aim high and push until we get there. And when we get there, let's keep going.
Yeah, 100%.
And then
number 3 for you.
Probably diversity. So there's a lot of people, and it might work for some, who are very one business minded, and that's fine, but that business needs multiple income streams. So if COVID happened again tomorrow, and let's hope that never happens, so many businesses were impacted and caught out because they didn't have other ways to make money.
Yes.
And I think looking at your business as it is today with a real open mind around where are all the opportunities for you to be able to increase your revenue or your products or your service to allow you to reach a greater audience, and then taking some action to start implementing that. So for me, it was multiple companies, because I realized a coaching company that is just me, at some point I'm going to run out of time. So it was a case of, for me to get extra income, I'm going to need to have additional companies that can manage and run without me on a day-to-day basis, as long as I've got oversight. And that's what we're starting to build in the companies I've now got.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially when you look at multiple incomes and multiple revenue streams within reason. You know, you don't want to over flood yourself too much with it, because you cannot manage it all, Michelle. It's hard to do that one. What would be your third one on that one? Top tip, Dad? I missed that there slightly.
So probably around entrepreneurship. So I'm a big believer that if I'm doing well, then my team should be doing well. And Craig has the same philosophy. So our sales team, for example, in Revitalise, have uncapped commission. From every pound they make, they get commission. They don't have to hit a threshold first. On the property side, once they've been with us 12 months, we'll put them through property training. And if they want to invest in property, any of the team, to be fair, we would support them in that. And I think there's too much emphasis on, if they learn new skills and do new things or earn more money, maybe they'll leave. But actually, if you help them achieve greater wealth and happier homes and better lives, why would they ever leave?
Yeah, I think that's really important on that one. And I put those in there, actually. One, everything is possible. Diversity in business, multiple income streams. And thirdly, but most importantly, is entrepreneurship, share the success. You just said, share the success. I've just dropped those into the YouTube channel as well, which you'll see there if you go to the channel and subscribe to the channel as well. Some great points there. And I think it's, you know, you mentioned before, I love the way you say, share the success with the team that you've got around you. So surround yourself with the right people around you, but also the right advisors, but also share that success. And I think there's many people just stick with one revenue stream, but you can have multiple revenue streams in the same industry and sector that you work in. You haven't got to diverse to different sectors, you know, to have different caps on. Keep the same cap.
Yeah.
You can also go that way as well. Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. Thank you very much. The next one I'd like to delve into really is, I talk about personal development. You talked about partners, you talked about people around you. How do you take time out? You're such a busy woman, being out and about doing this, that, and the other.
I don't.
Do you take time for personal development and self-reflection for yourself?
Yeah, so I had probably for 3 years, no, more now actually, 3 or 4 years, I do a 5 a.m. So I've been a 5 a.m. for all of that time, 7 on a weekend, 5 a.m. during the week. And in that first half hour of every day is a little bit of meditation, a little bit of reflection. I've got various meditations around the higher intuition work that I bring pre-recorded, and I utilize them now. Previously, I would use Bob Proctor's meditations, and I'll write down afterwards the thoughts and the feelings and anything that's come to mind as a result of that meditation. And I choose one relevant to what I believe is going through my head at that moment in time. So I do that. I practice gratitude. I think too often we are looking constantly for the next thing, and I'm guilty of that. I'm always pushing forward. But I'm also really grateful for the people in my life and what I've already achieved. And I know for a lot of people, where I am today is success. But for me, I just know that I've got so much more to give and so much more to achieve and support others to have. And so I'll not stop pushing myself forward, but I also need to be really grateful and humble for where I'm at.
Do you know, again, I'm agreeing with this, because a lot of people just jump out of bed in the morning and they just go straight into their daily routines.
Yeah.
Or they don't get themselves in the right mindset prior to delving into what they want to do. There's one that I always learn. I do every morning now, is the 5-second rule. I do that quite regularly. I count down from 5, and this comes from Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
And that works really well for me. I count down from 5 and I go, right, just do it. Whatever I do, I count down from 5 and I go, right, I'm going to action that and just do it. You know, time just doesn't wait for anybody.
Yeah.
You've got to get on with it. And I love the meditation. So do you spend the full 30 minutes doing the meditation, or do you split that 30 minutes up into segments?
It really depends on which meditation I've chosen. So some of them are sort of 15, 20 minutes. One of them that I do if I'm really struggling with something is about 40 minutes. But that first hour of my day, that 5 till 6 is my day. No one else is awake really. Nothing else is happening. It's just my time for me. And then I try, but I'm not very good at it at the moment because I've got a bit of a hectic diary prepping for going on holiday. I do try to go to the gym at 6. It opens at 6:30. And I'll go for a swim or a sauna. I'm not doing cardio at the moment because I've got a chest infection. So, but I definitely, for me, having that time, getting to the office by 7:30 means I've taken 2 hours plus to prepare myself and to mentally start thinking about, with intention, what do I want to achieve today? What tasks need to get done? What are non-negotiables? What would I like meeting outcomes to be? Like I really think about those things rather than just rocking up and expecting something to go how I want without any thought beforehand.
Yeah, I'm the same way because I'll get up in the morning. I don't go to a gym, but in the morning I'll do a 7 to 10 minute workout, and it's stretches and movement, and that gets me set up the right way. I think that's worked for me and I've actually done it more often lately than what I did prior. I've actually included it into my daily routine now.
Nice.
I'm 6 a.m. person, not a 5 a.m. That's what I'm doing and what I'm to. But I think it's an important part of anybody's business, especially getting that. You talk about the mindset again. I think it sets you up the right way. And somebody said to me, spend an hour in the morning of just not connecting on phones or anything, just writing down your notes of the day. Just completely, not decompress, but just set yourself up, just writing out, right, what's my action points to do today? What's my action points of the week? What's my checklist? If it's a Monday, or where am I on a Wednesday, midweek, etc. And then the wrap up of the week on a Friday. I think that's so important. People forget about that, don't they, really?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I'll always have a never-ending to-do list. I do like a to-do list. But what I do now, and I've done probably for a couple of years, is I'll put 1, 2, 3 on the things that need to get done. And I'll do number 1 until number 1's done. And then I'll do 2 and 3. If I don't get to 3 and it's not finished, then I'll just put it on the next day. But that 1, 2, 3 means that you're taking positive action steps every day towards the destination, not just doing the day job and turning the mill, because that's not going to give you the thrust that you need to keep excelling.
I think that's another, diverting what you need to do, diverting and delegate and separate the right way up, and don't put it to one side to not do it. Put it to one side that you're gonna do it, because I think that's one of the big things. Oh, I'll leave it till tomorrow. I'll leave it till tomorrow. It never happens. Never happens. I'll leave it till the next day, and then it gets disappeared completely. Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. What's next for you and the business? Where do you see yourself in the next sort of 6 months or even 12 months? I'm not talking about like 5 years down the line. I'm looking for the maximum the next year. Where do you see yourself next year?
That's a really tough one. So I know where I'm going to be in 5, so that's easier for me. But I think we probably didn't expect the property company to grow as quick. So that business is 18 months old. We've got 7 projects under our belt, which is more than we anticipated for ourselves, plus things we're doing for investors. So it has grown quite quickly. It's now got 2 staff in it. So we probably thought that would be 2 or 3 years based on what we'd seen around us. So I'd like to think that department continues to grow. We've talked about having a marketing company that works within our business across all the companies to be able to make them more streamlined and to take work off me. And then continue to develop. Proper-Tay transitioned in February last year from an energy brokerage into a green tech company that specializes in reducing carbon footprints. And one of the benefits of that is that we still do brokerage, but we do it at not a non-profit, but essentially we're not charging the standard commissions that you would get charged within the industry, because we actually want you to reduce your energy, not increase it. So for us, energy has become a service, and the focus is around reducing the consumption of companies. So that transition, along with the property company growing and me keeping a small number of coaching clients to keep me happy, I think we'll just keep doing what we're doing and keep building and improving.
But after meeting you at one of the expos as well, and especially in Dundee and everything else, seeing that transition that you've gone through and where it's going to change, so I think you will hit this goal dead on the nose within the next year, and especially with you got utility as well that's working with you, and the Proper-Tay as well. People always ask me this question. I think it's one thing I always like to wrap up this call with every week, is that who's a good business introduction? So people are watching this today and they're thinking, who can I introduce to Michelle? Who would be a great business introduction for you as a sector or as an individual? Who would it be?
So we probably have two. So on the energy side, anybody who's a high energy user, we can assist them to reduce their carbon footprint and essentially their bills by reducing the energy that they're using. And we've introduced a new product that allows us to provide bigger buying power for companies that are smaller. That was only available to big companies previously. So anyone who's got energy bills that they're confused, irritated, or just want some support with, it would be an easy one. And then beyond that, for Proper-Tay Wealth, we're keen to speak to people looking to make their money work for them. You know, we provide returns of 10+% on any investments made into that company, and that's obviously far more than the ISAs are getting or the standard savings accounts are getting. And with inflation coming down, it's great, but it also means that there's going to be an impact in that space as well. So anyone who's in a position, or a company in a position with cash flow, that are looking to make it go to work and make them more money, we're keen to have a conversation about how we can help them do that.
So would that be property developers, property companies, construction industry?
It's any company. So for example, Lee, I don't know your situation, but if you were sat there and you said, Michelle, they've got £50,000 in the bank, I'd be like, cool. So if you want to put that into one of our programs, and we'll put that to work and we'll give you a return every year. And at the end of it, you get your cash back. You could just make money by carrying on doing what you're doing, and the money would be happening before you and you get the money back. So that's our fixed returns. And then beyond that, we have a small number of people that we do portfolio building for. We probably have 1 or 2 spaces for that, but that's something that we do for people looking to build a portfolio rather than just 1 or 2 properties.
And that's not locally, that can be a global coverage, it can be any company.
Absolutely. So far, a lot of it has been London and overseas, because they're not getting the returns in the markets that they used to get. And certainly in London, you probably can't buy an apartment for the price of a 5-bed mansion in Dundee. So when we say to somebody, if you had £100,000, we can get you a 3-bedroom house that's going to give you 100k a year, £1,000 a month rental. They're like, what? Yeah. So it is about understanding that wherever you are, as long as you have some money, there's something you can do in property. And most people think they need to have hundreds of thousands to do it, and it's just not the case.
No, I think it's going to be astronomical. It's going to be like really high end as well. So I've actually just dropped that into the chat as well, the YouTube one. It's Michelle's business intros as high end business users for utility usage, property developers, companies, and investors, not just locally but globally. It's in there. That's on the YouTube as well. And I'll add that into the LinkedIn profile as well. I guess the best way to get in contact with you, Michelle, would be via LinkedIn or by social media?
Yeah, generally LinkedIn. So because we have several companies, I guess it's easier for me to be on LinkedIn on a regular basis than it is anywhere else. So I'm on LinkedIn every day. Even on holidays, I'm not very good at stopping. So even if I'm going away, people will still be able to get me there. And if they want to drop me a message, I'll come back to them.
Brilliant. And what I will do after this call, after this sort of this live sort of stream, I'll add into the YouTube channel once it's been played. I'll add Michelle's LinkedIn profile into that as well. And I'll add it to the LinkedIn live that we're doing right now as well. So you can interact with Michelle and start the conversations with that. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me this week. I've really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best, every single part of success you can imagine for the year and the 5 years going forward.
Thanks so much, Lee. It's been great chatting along, and hopefully there was some value in there for those that were watching and that catch up on replay.
Yeah, mega amount of value has been added in there, and a massive thank you to everybody who's jumped online. If you haven't had any comments on it, just reach out to myself and Michelle, and any feedback you've got as well, please pass it through. It's always great to have a catch up with you, Michelle, and for me, it's a chance to really expose, to shine a spotlight onto the guests and the business professionals that I have along here. So thank you for allowing me to really shine a light on you and really share with everybody what you've been doing over the last many years as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks to everybody who's been watching and listening, and stay tuned as next week on Tuesday, live at 5 on LinkedIn Live and on the Revitalise Network and YouTube channel, I've got the great pleasure to welcome along Mr. Superhuman himself, and that's Anurag Rai, the superhuman in you. He's going to be joining me next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So subscribe to the YouTube channel on Revitalise Network, or just click on a LinkedIn onto my profile, add the event to your schedule, and come along and join us. Pop the kettle on for a cuppa, or if you've got some wonderful big box goodies from Jennifer Walker, drop those next to you and just chomp away and enjoy some wonderful sweet treats with a cuppa as well. And join us then. Thank you for watching the business focused podcast that is Revitalise Meets. Myself and Michelle wish you all the very best. Happy connecting, and we'll see you again next week, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.